the cost of production will go up. The government will have to take a hit. First thing is there's a lot of cushion in the Indian oil prices we pay and the cost of processing and the government taxes. 60% of the oil prices are taxes. The government will have to take a hit and reduce the amount of taxes it will take rather than pass it on to the consumer. If they pass it on to consumers, there'll be a huge hullabaloo. And I don't know if the Modi government at right now is strong enough to handle the hullabaloo of that kind. So they might decide to take a hit for a while, hoping that this is a short-term thing, this is past. If Iran decides to be bloody minded about it and starts attacking tankers indiscriminately, I don't care whose tankers it are, that you will not use these waters. If we come to that, then we're all looking into serious trouble. How much of punishment Donald Trump can take depends on how much of punishment Israel can take. And
Okay.
it depends on how much the mullahs are willing to give. If they decide that we're going to go down fighting and go down in inflicting pain, then they are capable of inflicting a lot of pain. You're not talking to rational people who suffer a certain amount of pain to say enough is enough. This is Shiite tradition of sacrifice. They glorify their sacrifices.
Do we not arrive, or anyone would arrive at the conclusion that for the sake of domestic politics, for the sake of your own political constituency, here is a prime minister who is ready to put the foreign policy at the altar? He's just not thinking what has been built over the years.
Well, that is
Our
what
foreign
you
policy
have.
is completely diminished at this time.
That is what you have as a prime minister. And Jaishankar has been the most pro-American bureaucrat in the foreign ministry for a long time.
Hello and a warm welcome to HW News Network, your one stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought provoking conversations. Now, Iran is considering closing the key oil shipping route, Strait of Hormuz, after the US bombed three of its nuclear facilities, Iranian media has reported. Now, the Strait of Hormuz is one of the world's most critical choke points through which a fifth of global oil and gas supply flows. It connects the Persian Gulf to the Arabian Sea and the Indian Ocean. The narrow channel, approximately 33 kilometers wide at the narrowest point, separates North Iran from the Arabian Peninsula. Now, because of this conflict, which is brewing between Israel and Iran, everyone is talking about the possibility of oil and gas prices shooting up. There could be an economic fallout. Now, this is one bit of the story. Second bit is the dangers which America now is facing. There are several reports across the American media that the Iranian sleeper cells might get active, and FBI has issued an alert. They are monitoring these sleeper cells very, very carefully. So, what could be the situation which could be unfolding in the coming days? Joining me this evening is Mohan Guruswamy, political commentator, author. Thank you so much for joining on HW News. It's wonderful to have you on the program. And my first question to you, of course, is related to the economic fallout of the Strait of Hormuz being closed down. The Iranian parliament has given an approval. How do you really see this decision taken by the Iranian parliament?
Well, the Iranian parliament giving it an okay to the regime is one thing, but the ability to enforce it is something else. The states are about 20 miles across at its narrowest, but even 20 miles is a wide distance. Iran has to attack and sink tankers on this thing to block it. So will Iran do it? Because most of the oil is being carried there, it's oil. Iranian oil comes out. Iran has the world's biggest shadow fleet sitting in the Arabian Sea. We then take the oil to the rest of the world. As if it's, the embargo on Iran is only token. Iran is merely breaking the embargo. So it earns about $60 billion uh, uh, from oil exports. And it is of critical importance to India because India gets 40% of its imported oil through the Straits of Hormuz. We get it from Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iraq, and Iran itself. So a lot of that comes for us. And for us, there would be, for instance, the Jamnagar refinery. The refineries in Jamnagar get most of their oil straight through Straits of Hormuz. So the oil production in India will get affected. Oil prices in India will get affected. Uh, Sales will be choked because there won't be enough production. So these are things that we have to look at very carefully. We may not, we have a stockpile, but the stockpile won't take us more than a few weeks now because we don't have that kind of storage capacity built in India. We have a storage capacity in Vizag, built in the cavern, but
No, so what is
that
your feeling, Mr. Guruswamy, that the prices of diesel, petrol, will they shoot beyond 150? What is the possibility now which you look at? What could happen?
the cost of production will go up. The government will have to take a hit. First thing is there's a lot of cushion in the Indian oil prices we pay and the cost of processing and the government taxes. 60% of the oil prices are taxes. The government will have to take a hit and reduce the amount of taxes it will take rather than pass it on to the consumers. If they pass it on to consumers, there'll be a huge hullabaloo. And I don't know if the Modi government at right now is strong enough to handle the hullabaloo of that kind. So they might decide to take the hit for a while, hoping that this is a short-term thing which will pass. But it is going to affect us. We are the world's biggest importer of oil through the Straits of Hormuz. Now forget about Hormuz. Bab el Mandeb is close by. Iranians have got the Houthis in it, and they can interdict oil through the Suez Channel. So both channels, accounting for about 60% of world oil, can be affected by Iran if Iran decides to be bloody minded about it and starts attacking tankers indiscriminately. I don't care whose tankers it are, that you will not use these waters. If we come to that, then we're all looking into serious trouble. And Iran is then also looking into trouble because all of us will have a vested interest to gang up on Iran, because you can't do this. So right now, even the Indian government is talking to Iran, asking them to go slow. Whether Iran will actually, therefore, I'm skeptical whether Iran will actually block the Straits of Hormuz. They keep threatening it. It's more effective to threaten it than take the action.
No, but now since this is the last desperate attempt Iran could make, and this is the biggest weapon which they had to choke the oil supplies, to choke the gas supplies. Now, is there anything else which Iran can do at the moment to ramp up diplomatic support? Uh,
I think Iran has still got plenty of
Mr. Goswami,
reserves with it.
Can you just come a little to the center frame because you're going towards the
Yeah.
edge? Can you just
Yeah.
come towards the center slightly? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. 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 And a
Mhm.
little louder if you can be. Yeah.
Yeah. Iran has not used up all its weapons. It still has about 50% of its missile stocks in hand. And whatever the Americans and the Israelis might claim, those missiles are intact. It's used up half its arsenal, but it's got half still left. And most of these are the hypersonic, supersonic missiles, ballistic missiles, which can rain down hell on Israel. The question is how much of beating can Israel take? You saw one hospital hit. The whole country was screaming. If Tel Aviv gets flattened, then the Israelis will get even more because they're not used to it. They're used to doing this to others. But when it happens to them, a developed country, is a certain amount of pain they can't take beyond a point. So I think the worst is yet to come. Iran is still holding its guns, holding its reserves.
No, so
Iranian,
Sorry to interrupt you, and I'm going to repeat. You are saying that the worst is yet to come, and you are saying that Iran has many more arsenals in its quiver. That's what you're saying.
I'm saying that, and I'm also wanting to say at this point that we all forget that the first atomic weapon used in the world in Hiroshima was not a tested weapon. We all assume that you need to test a weapon before you use it. The Nagasaki bomb was tested. The Hiroshima bomb was the first time designed, the gun design. So Iran has enough missile material with it to get. I would not be surprised if they produce a bomb or two from their guns. So we have to watch this very carefully. They've got missiles, nuclear capable missiles. All they've got to do is to stick a warhead on there. Who knows? We're all assuming that they haven't tested, so they're non-nuclear. Israel has tested in 1979, and therefore we believe that they have nuclear weapons. And we don't know what, because the Americans didn't test before the bomb in Hiroshima with the new weapon. So with computers and with Iranian skills, demonstrated skills, look at the kind of missiles they've got. They're supplying missiles to Russia for everything. Russia is using Iranian drones and missiles in Ukraine.
No, but what is your feeling now? That what is the kind of, I mean, challenges are bigger for Iran or challenges are bigger for Donald Trump now after the attack
I
on the
mean,
three nuclear sites?
the challenges for Donald Trump depend on how much Israel will shout. So how much of punishment Iran can now inflict on Israel is to be seen. I personally suspect that they've got holding some in reserve. Because
No,
there's something about the Shias,
Mr.
they're
Guruswamy, can you
capable of
speak a little louder? Can you speak a little louder because your sound is fading in between also. So if you
how
could
much
speak a
how
little
much
louder.
how much of punishment Donald Trump can take depends on how much of punishment Israel can take. And
Okay.
it depends on how much the mullahs are willing to give. If they decide that we're going to go down fighting and go down in inflicting pain, then they are capable of inflicting a lot of pain. You're not talking to rational people who suffer a certain amount of pain to say enough is enough. This is Shiite tradition of sacrifice. They glorify their sacrifices. They celebrate sacrifices. They celebrate pain. There's a Shiite mentality at work here. The West will never understand these things. Now, how much pain Iran is willing to absorb is unfathomable. Look at the kind of battering they've taken in the last 2 weeks. They have no air power, they have no aircraft, but they enter the war without aircraft. They enter the war only with offensive missiles. They have no navy, only missiles, knowing that we are going to get hit.
No, so you are saying that Iran can inflict more challenges on Donald Trump and Netanyahu also. Is that what you're saying? That Iran's firepower is not over and out right now?
Iran's firepower is not over, and they won't be able to inflict much punishment. Netanyahu is a surrogate for Donald Trump. Donald Trump is sitting 8,000 miles away, quite safe. Iran doesn't have anything to reach him. But uh, Iran has got plenty for Netanyahu. The thing is to get Iran to accept a ceasefire settlement and say that, look, let's start talking. But the Americans were talking to them and then suddenly blasted them. So who will Iran trust? It all now depends on China and Russia. They can persuade Iran and then tell the Americans that enough is enough of this nonsense. Let's start talking to them. After all, Iran is an old civilization, been around for 3,000 years. You can't treat it like yesterday's rubbish. And they have a long tradition. They've been fighting in the days of Alexander.
True. But now, what about these stories which are floating on the American media that the sleeper cells of Iran, Iranian sleeper cells might get active, they might inflict attacks in America, and on the Americans. And does this make the life of the Americans very in peril? Does it put the Americans in peril now? What the kind of decision which Donald Trump has taken by inflicting attacks on the three nuclear sites?
You might have the odd incident or two. I don't think they have that kind of capability in the United States. Most of the Iranians in America are Iranians who have voted with their feet and voted with their minds also. They left during the Shah time. And they're not going to support the mullahs. Most of the Iranian opposition is abroad, is in America. I don't think they have that kind of a base. And America is a highly monitored and policed state, what people don't realize. The minute you go to use a credit card, they know where you are. They can lock your banks up, they can lock everything up. So it's not easy to operate in America with a hostile mind and hostile intent. Particularly if they're looking for you. It's a highly monitored society. They've got cameras on every street, even in every village. So at any given time, thousands, millions of pictures are being monitored by the NSA. Every telephone conversation is monitored. Every mobile phone is monitored. Every call you make overseas is monitored. Everything you send on the internet, on WhatsApp is monitored. You can't hide very much in America. America, in many ways, I always tell people, is a total police state. Everything is policed. When things like these are not there, we're not
No,
policed.
but what is the kind of challenge, according to you, which Donald Trump now faces? Of course, Iran has nothing to lose. And today also he's tweeted that I was not talking about the regime change, but if the regime change makes Iran great again, then let there be a regime change. So, what do you think is the idea of Donald Trump? Is
I
it a
think
regime change or is it something else he's looking
I
at?
think the worst scenario for Donald Trump is if he has to send troops to the Middle East to fight. That's when this is not Iraq. The Iranians are in pain on it. And if he gets entangled, that's what he's scared of. He doesn't want to entangle them. He wants a standoff war. And he's got this little standoff thing, 12,000 kilometers across. He sends bombers to drop bombs and come back. But even America has limitations. How much more can they attack? They use up their big ace. And what else is there to attack? Hmm. Look at Gaza. The city has been flattened, but the Gazans are still fighting. The morning of the gunfight. There is something which people in the West cannot fathom. That desperate people will go to any extent. And Iran is not going down just like that because Donald Trump says fall down, they're going to fall down. And regime change, I think regime various cons, particularly war makes a regime strong. You saw in that brief period of Sindhu how the popularity of the Prime Minister grew. Even though we didn't do so well in that skirmish, it still has. Because war has the way of putting people behind the regime. And that's what commentators have been saying on Iranian American TV, Iranian commentators, again and again, that at this time we support the government. People have been saying we're opposed to them, but we
Right.
support them now.
But I also want to talk to you about the kind of stand which India is taking in this Israel and Iran war. Do you think that this stand is justified, or this stand Modi has pushed? How would you really see the kind of stand which India is taking? Prime
You
Minister
see,
yesterday he spoke to Khamenei, and he said that he wishes peace, and but he doesn't have the strength and the courage to speak to Donald Trump or Netanyahu or tell him that please stop the attacks. But he does have the courage to talk to Iran on this.
you see, he's talking in generality. To say, you must have peace is good. What else can you say? You can't afford to rub Israel on the wrong side. 40% of your defense supplies are now coming from Israel. All those scalp bombs and whatever bombs you're using are coming from Israel. Your dependence on
We do have no, but we do have defense connections with Israel. But we also had a long legacy with Iran, which has been spoiled. We had a proper West Asia policy. We had a cultural connect with Iran. All that Modi ji has kept
we
it
have a
aside. He
historical
keeps
connect.
coming upon the
We have
fact
a historical
we will build on the
historic
virasat. He multiple
historic
times he said that we will build our virasat. Now, in terms of virasat, if you look at what has happened between Iran and India, what would you say, sir?
well, we have a step Iranian connection. 40% of Indian DNA is of step Iranian origin. So we have those connections. But things have changed. You see, basically you've got a regime in India which has come to power on its anti-Islam basis. And Israel has been an idol of the RSS. Is an exemplar of the RSS. RSS says that we must be like Israel. So you forget, and there are deep financial connections when we buy these Israeli arms.
So basically, it's the hatred for the Muslims and the politics, the domestic politics, which is driving Prime Minister Modi to speak to Iran in this voice.
Absolutely, he's a creature of politics. He's a creature of politics. And what else has he got in his hand? He was running with America and the Quad. Then he goes to Shanghai Cooperation. This is a man who gets into a plane and starts flying all over the place. You have a nation with no commitment, who made realpolitik the basis of its existence. And we have no linkages with Ukraine. At least we can tell Putin that, try for a
No, but
ceasefire, but he
Mr.
doesn't.
Guruswamy, yeah, you're absolutely right when you say this. But then, do we not arrive, or anyone would arrive at the conclusion that for the sake of domestic politics, for the sake of your own political constituency, here is a prime minister who is ready to put the foreign policy at the altar? He's just not thinking what has been built over the years.
Well, that is
Our
what
foreign
you
policy
have.
looks completely diminished at this time.
That is what you have as a prime minister. And Jaishankar has been the most pro-American bureaucrat in the foreign ministry for a long time. Matter of fact, during the Indo-American nuclear discussions, the civil nuclear agreement, Jaishankar played a key role. He was the man who led the move. He was the man who was, running errands for Manmohan Singh. And, so all this fits in naturally with their appetite. Modi was Modi went to America, to Canada, and Trump even left a day before he arrived. Then says, come over to Washington. And Trump invites the Pakistani general for lunch there and asks Modi to drop by. So this is,
No, but is there a way out? Is there a way out now as the war escalates? I don't see any possibilities of a de escalation. Iran has already said that they will not back down. They are not retracing their steps back. Donald Trump also is hell bent on doing whatever he wants. So there is no sign of a de escalation clearly. So, in this possibility or amidst this possibility, what do you think Prime Minister Modi will do? Is he just going to keep quiet after that one phone call? He's going to forget Iran. He did what he had to do as something
well,
cosmetic.
well, he's do only cosmetic things. He has no cards to play. He will sit still. He will sit still and bide for time. So there's also a limit to how much Iran can fight. After all, if you're firing 300 missiles a day and you have 2,000 missiles, you've got 6 days of artillery.
But do you also see the Islamic nations, the entire Arab world now uniting in favor of Iran? Do you see the possibility of that? Because yesterday there was a meeting of the Islamic nations. Now, do you see the Islamic nations coming together in favor of
I
Iran?
don't, I don't see that. If you look at the way Israel was battering Gaza, have you seen
Yes,
anything more uncivilized than that in the world? Here is a population sitting without anything, and you're battering them from the air, with artillery, with small arms, with everything. You killed 60,000 Gazans, civilians, women and children mostly, already, and the world hasn't lifted its hand. This is because, the sheer cussedness of the Israelis. It's a shocking thing. In Israel, Jewish people are the people who suffered the most under the Europeans. And to see them behave just this way on another nation, on another people, is quite sickening. Have we said anything? Has Modi lifted his hand and said, we must have a ceasefire? Can't we call up Netanyahu and say, enough is enough, and say, take it easy now? He hasn't done that. So a man who hasn't done that, what will he do with Iran and Israel?
true.
And does he have
But
any beliefs on this?
right. But, how would you dismiss these voices who say that, now if Russia and China also join this war between Israel and Iran, do we see the possibility of a World War III happening? Or is it something which is very far fetched? How do you see that?
No, I don't see Russia, China joining in this war. I think Russia will make use of this opportunity to sort out Ukraine. They might even agree for as is where a ceasefire and citizen, the permanent settlement. Putin has hinted at that. It is the West which has been insisting on arming Ukraine and fighting on. If Trump says, okay, let's take a break here, China would be quite happy to sell to everybody. Reconstruction is big business for China. If Iran has to be rebuilt, Gaza has to be rebuilt, all these countries have to be rebuilt, China will benefit the most. It's not Americans who are going to go build pipelines and subways. The Chinese will do it. They've been doing it for the last 20 years. So China will look forward to the ending of this conflict. I don't think they have any interest in perpetuating any conflict. I feel Chinese, because of the international trade, the way it is distributed, have the greatest vested interest in world stability. They would not
Right,
like to see the Indian Ocean oil lanes disrupted.
right.
If Iran is not selling oil, it won't buy goods then. And Iran is a big market.
Yeah,
It affects
that's
India
true.
also.
Yeah. No, and they are an oil economy. They know how to be self-sufficient as well. They don't depend too much on the on America or several other countries. But one last question before I wind up the interview, Mr. Guruswamy, and then again, that is the decision which has been taken by the Iranian parliament to close down the Strait of Hormuz. Do you see a very, very drastic fallout of this decision in terms of
I,
the supply of oil and gas?
I don't think so. I think it's a threat. It's a reminder to the world. I don't think they'll actually do it.
Okay, so
One
you're
is
saying that this is just a threat, they might not implement it. Is that what you're saying?
because because they also benefit by the straits being open because it's their oil which is going out.
Yeah,
You know, we think that there is a boycott, there's a embargo on Russian oil. It's not there. They are merely breaking the embargo, and they've got 60 tankers sitting in the Arabian Sea, which are taking oil to all over the world. This is known as the shadow fleet. So I don't think all of us have a vested interest in keeping the sea lanes going. I don't think Iran will disrupt that also.
okay, so we'll have to wait and watch how things unfold. Thank you so much, Mr. Guruswamy, for joining on HW. Thank you.